Hey everybody, back again to look at 5 more metal releases. And we're going to start off with a brand new one. This is Ruiner, the most recent album by the American black metal band Krieg. This came out in October 2023 on Profound Lore Records. And I always lumped in Krieg with that wave of American black metal from the 2000s. We're talking Leviathan, Xasthur, Krieg themselves, and Nachtmystium, if we're talking the big names. And members of those groups all participated in one way or another with that black metal supergroup. Twilight and Imperial from Krieg handled vocals on most, if not all, of the Twilight albums. I'd also say they are very unique from those aforementioned bands. I find most of those bands have more of a Burzum thing going on than they do, but we'll get to that later. I am actually unfamiliar with the oldest Krieg stuff, but from Blue Miasma onwards, I've heard it all, at least a couple times. And this album here, I personally hear a lot of Darkthrone from multiple eras. And overall, I don't find this a particularly interesting release, but I do think it's a good release. And there are how many songs on here? 8 songs, and I think as the album goes on, I think it gets better. So speaking of Krieg and the band leader Imperial, he's been involved with many projects over the years, but I have this here from 2007, a release called NIL, which stands for Nihilism is Liberation. So this came out in 2007 on Battle Command Records, which was the label of Blake from Nachtmystium. And this is a 2-man side project. It also featured Jay Marcheski, who was also in a band called March Into the Sea with Imperial, which is more of a doom metal thing. So this is simple, noisy, repetitive black metal with acoustic touches thrown in there and a bit of experimentation. I took a look on Metal Archives just to kind of see what the consensus was on this album, and there were just a couple reviews there, but they were definitely pretty negative. But I've always found this album somewhat intriguing, and I check it out every couple years. And I think they put out an EP after this several years later, but that's all the band's really done, and I'm pretty sure it's not a thing anymore. And there's also a cover song of Bad Houses by Big Black. We got another Profound Lore release here, which also came out in October 2023. And this is Destroyer by the band Fearing. So Fearing are a newer post-punk band from Oakland, California. And a year or two ago, I became acquainted with their EP, Black Sand. I thought it was amazing, and I proceeded to check out a bunch of their older stuff. I thought it was all really good. So this album here, I found a little bit different. I think it's a little less shoegazy and a little more standard modern post-punk. So to be honest, I think I do prefer the older material, but this is still great. I listened to it a million times over the Halloween season just passed. Perfect for that time of year. My favorite song on there is definitely Finding Where You Are. But again, I like this album. I like the older stuff a bit better. But I'm definitely a fan of this band, and I will be checking out what they have in store next. Quick detour here on my last video. I opened up the Metalhead box, and I got this album in there, Hanging Fortress, Suspended in Torment. These guys used to be signed to Transcending Obscurity, a great label but looks like this, their most recent release, is independent. Death metal with a ton of hardcore influence. Doesn't really sound like my thing, but this was a pleasant surprise. I found this really catchy, heavy, fun, and something I played a lot more than I ever expected to. Okay, now we're gonna round this up with a couple fairly unknown Greek bands. This is Mortal Torment Cleaver Redemption. This came out in 2015 on Gorehouse Productions. And although the band is still active, this is their most recent material. 8-9 years old at this point. So we're talking, again, brutal death metal from Greece. I'd say a mixture of the slam sound with Cannibal Corpse. Song titles on here are definitely a bit of a turnoff for me, but you know, I'm sure the band and people who are really into the style would probably take that as a compliment, and that's cool. But solid stuff for what it is. And I will close it out with Vicious Knights, Malevolent Spirits. So this is I call them extreme thrash speed metal band from Greece. And I forgot about this album, but I saw that last year they put out a full length on Dying Victims, which is an amazing record label if you're looking for straightforward metal releases. And this is the preceding EP. Not sure what year this came out. World War Now Records. But this is definitely one for fans of early Creator, early Destruction. Again, just thrash from a more extreme, in a more extreme manner. Gonna check out the most recent full length. That should be pretty cool. And I always thought this was a decent release. And that's it for today. See you next time.